Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending from where you're joining us today, and welcome to this virtual event on brand religions. Joining us here today is Professor Dr. Niels Schillewaert, branding expert, co-founder of Insights Consulting, and author of the Brand Religions book scene, where the most popular beliefs and frameworks in branding are grouped. Today's session will give you an overview of these 5 streams of thought or brand religions using brand illustrations as well as own case examples. Before we start, some practicalities. The session will be recorded and will be sent to you in the next days together with a digital version of our brand religion book scene. If you have any questions during the session, please use the question pane, which you can find at the right-hand side of your screen. We will have some time at the end of the session for a Q&A, where, where we will try to answer as many questions as possible. Without further ado, I would like to give the virtual floor to Niels.
Thank you so much, Emily, for that nice introduction. And hello from my side as well, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining this teaser session on brand religions. This is the menu for the next hour. I will give you an introduction about the idea behind brand religions, and then we will deep dive into some of these religions' principles and illustrate them with case studies, both from marketing as well as research. And then we'll wrap up with some extra next follow-up points as well as a Q&A, as Emily just mentioned. Before I dive into the idea behind brand religions, I do want to note that this is a teaser session, meaning that normally this talk and this workshop can last 2 hours, 3 hours, or even a full day with your team. What we have tried to do is give you an overview and made some selections in terms of the beliefs behind each of the religions, as well as the illustrations. So hopefully it gives you enough material to reflect upon and to be inspired and hopefully engage with us in a broader setting or a longer session later or further down the road. Brand religions. What is it and why did we come up with it? If you look at the marketing literature that is out there, many books have been written on how to grow brands and be successful with brands in the market. But this chaos or unstructured choice of books and frameworks and theoretical models can create confusion among marketeers and brand owners. It can create confusion because marketeers, brand owners, or insights professionals simply don't know what to do. Which framework is the good one? Which one should I go for? Or it may lead to a situation in which they jump from one philosophy or one stream of thought to the other, hence not being consistent enough to call it real brand strategy. So we were thinking that there was a need, or that there could be a need to provide structure and a framework within this chaos of choice. And so we were thinking at a certain moment, this sounds a little bit like religions, because if you think about what religions have done for human beings, is that they have provided frameworks to explain complex phenomena or to guide people's behavior in terms of certain aspects of life. And if you look at a definition of what a religion is, it is a pursuit or interest that is followed with great devotion by a group of people. It's an extension of a philosophy, if you want, which means that it is a theory or an attitude that acts as a guiding principle for behaviors. So in this way, if you look at these books and we could classify them, we said, there's a metaphor here that we could label it as brand religions, as it would guide, these are principles that would guide marketeers and brand owners in terms of the behavior and the strategy concerning their brands, and do so with great devotion. So we identified 5 religions. We start off with the classic religion. The classic religion is based on segmenting, targeting, and positioning your market, making sure that your brand is different in the market, and in the end, build brand equity by means of integrated marketing communication. An extension of the classic religion is what we call the relationship religion. This relationship religion is all about creating brand love, or brand loyalty beyond reason. In order to do so, as a brand, you need to ensure that you tap into the right emotions, that you trigger the right emotions with your packaging, brand activation, or advertising, and that you make sure that people can identify with the values of your brand that it conveys. A third religion is what we call the influencer religion. The influencer religion thrives on conversations, on word of mouth, both online and offline. The principle behind it is that one should not market to people, but market through people. So it is all about finding the right people, the right influencers to do the marketing and help do the marketing for you. Of course, you need the content that is conversation worthy to make sure that you achieve the right effect in the market. The experience religion is a fourth religion that we identified. This is all about transcending your product and providing more than just a core product or service that you had envisioned, and to do that at scale. It is all about creating memorable experiences and create surprise and delight for your consumers and your target groups. And then finally, and most probably, the religion that is the most different of all these religions when you compare them in terms of their principles is the penetration religion. It is based on the thinking of Byron Sharp, and hence goes into that you should just make sure that you achieve and penetrate, that you achieve as many people as possible, make sure that they buy, and not necessarily focus on retention. It is also all about making sure that you are available with your products and your services, both mentally and physically. We'll elaborate on each of these in the next session. But before we do so, I want to do a poll with you. So take the chance to grab your mobile phone or open a web browser and go to polev.com/insights. You can also text insights to 22333 to join, and then answer with A, B, C, D, or E. And the first question is, which of these 5 brand religions that I have just briefly explained, or any elements thereof, do you use in supporting your brands? If you use a mix, you can obviously select multiple brand religions. So if you would take the time and start voting, as you can see, responses will start to flow in. So which of the 5 brand religions or elements thereof do you use in supporting your brands? Again, if you feel you use a mix of them, please go ahead and select multiple religions. Thank you so much for all voting. I see the numbers flowing in. This is interesting. I see the numbers are stabilizing a little bit and showing that the relationship religion, or building brand love, is the one religion that scores the highest, followed by the classic religion so far. And then the experience religion also being in third place, with about 1 in 5 of you indicating that that is a religion they follow. Interestingly, about 1 in 6 focuses on the penetration religion. So we see that it's really a mix indeed of religions that is followed, and very interesting to see what's leading. We often have clients that say, I don't want to be classic, because they think it is out of date, which obviously it is not. Our aim, by the way, is not to say that one religion is better than the other. It really depends on a number of factors and on the objectives that you have. So very interesting results. Thank you very much for voting. We'll have one more poll towards the end of this session, but this is very very interesting. Let's have a quick look at the classic religion. And as I mentioned, the classic religion is the core of contemporary marketing. And I'm sure that if you've had a class in marketing, you have come across the ideas and the thinking and the research of this man, Philip Kotler. You could call him the god of contemporary marketing and branding, and it's really based on a lot of his research together with Kevin Lane Keller, to name another influencer in the classic religion. Each of these religions in our book scene and in the presentation, we've built it up around a number of beliefs. And I won't go into detail into all of them, but I'll pick on some of the principles. But the classic religion, the first belief it is based on is that differentiation is key through STP, through segmenting, targeting, and positioning in your market. Second belief is one way is the only way. What that means is you use integrated mass marketing communication to build your brand. And all of these efforts should lead into building brand equity. One example about segmenting, targeting, and positioning is for a company, Bosch, who's operating in multiple verticals, but amongst others, in terms of thermotechnology, they have a big division. So air conditionings, heat pumps, heat installations. And they did a segmentation with us on their consumers as well as the installers. So more the B2B side of their value chain. And a logical way or basis to look at segmenting their professional market would be to look at age or the number of employees or the turnover that these installers have or the number of installations they do per year. Using cluster ensemble techniques, however, we looked at different bases. We really looked at the needs that these installers have. Some of them are focused on running their business. Others are focused on how do I make the best sell. Others are then again focused on installing the latest top-notch technology, and while others are really focused on providing the best customer service out there. And using these techniques, we came up with 5 segments going from traditionalists or innovators or pure businessmen. What it has allowed Bosch to do is to segment their customers and provide a sales or a strategy for their sales force to approach these clients with a different message and different propositions, such that they were able to customize their services, rewards, and training programs to this professional market. A completely different example of the classic religion you can find in KitKat. I won't go into detail, but this is the customer-based brand equity pyramid from Kevin Lane Keller, which maps nicely how the brand equity of KitKat is built up. And you may know the chocolate wafer, and you may know that it has a tagline, have a break, have a KitKat. You may also recognize that there's something like KitKat mania, meaning that if you just finished a bar, you want another one straight after. And for many people, it has childhood memories. And the brand has been able to build this up through a rational route of quality versus an emotional route of being laid back, funny, and quirky. And many things that KitKat does is trying to support or supports this equity to maintain it over the course of time. And I want to show you a quick advertisement that we have developed or inspired for KitKat using our creative crowdsourcing, ICA.
I think this one fits.
It's not the way it looks in the instructions, Harold. I think that's part B2. Where's A5? This is ridiculous. Where are the words?
Not your left, my left.
What's your left then?
Oh, God. It's like they want you to fail.
Alan, what's this?
Can I go over the middle?
You try turning it clockwise?
I've never seen a clock, mate. I don't know what you're talking about.
Ah! All right. Let's give it a go then.
When you need to snap out of it, have a break. Have a KitKat.
Let's just call the helpline.
So this campaign was inspired by our creative crowdsourcing community, ICA, And the way it works is we give these creatives an insight or a problem or a friction to solve, and in this case for an advertisement, and they come up with ideas along this, and this can be taken forward. And the brief here was to create a funny and relatable story that shows people reacting dramatically in frustrating situations, and link that to have a break, have a Kit Kat. And as you can tell, this advertisement is really in support of building that brand equity and maintaining that brand equity over the course of time. Let's have a look at the relationship religion. Again, built up around 3 beliefs. Emotions should guide your actions. What it refers to is that if we would take away emotions with human beings, we would not only be able to no longer laugh or cry, but we would simply be not able to make any decisions whatsoever. And you need to trigger the right emotions to ensure that consumers identify with your brand. What that refers to is that consumers need to feel that there is an overlap between their personal values and that your brand conveys. To, in the end, build long-lasting love or brand love over the course of time. This is an example of stimulus, an advertising stimulus that we tested for Unilever that triggers the right emotions to ensure that people donate to UNICEF as an NGO. We have seen that when we test these advertisements and these creatives under time pressure, by asking people to, when they see a visual stimulus and then are shown an emotion under time pressure and hit the space bar, we have found that these type of visuals are the most effective for people to donate. And the reason is that this type of visual shows the problem, the child in need in this case, but also shows a solution in terms of the caregiver that takes care of the child. And so this is an example of how you can trigger the right emotions to be as effective as possible in your market. Another example is this example from Coca-Cola.
Stop. Wait. Who says we have to go back to normal? Back to anything?
What if the new normal ain't the normal we knew? And we can't just do what we formerly do? What if the biggest change is you and me? What if we choose to be open and say, I'll never call my job unimportant again. I'll never say the teacher's holidays are too long. Or that school is dry and I can't wait to move on. My ears are not my earphones.
What if I listen?
What if I'm missing how bright your eyes glisten? What if I just smile a bit, travel less and love every mile of it? What if I believe in the change my cooking, my music can do? Hey, what if I don't dance, but just for you, I might give in to the rhythm soon. What if I refuse to be a stranger in my own living room? And I'll learn my lesson from a bad memory. And I'll keep social distance from bad energy. And I'll prove that funny, be sexy any day, but I'm still cute anyway. What if my dreams never take the back seat again? What if I'm there whenever you need a friend? What if I celebrate my skin, my body, my hair every day, even Mondays? And I stand by every word I say. I'll make my vote count, make my voice heard today. You know what? I will never say the city has too many chores. I'll lead like a woman. I'll have a family of dozens. I'll give my little nephews and nieces some cousins. I'll stay right beside you. I'll say yes, I do. See, I'll never forget how much stronger we are together. I'll carry that in my heart forever. We'll weather the storm. So I'll be open like never before.
Very proud that as Insights Consulting, we've been able and to help test and optimize this campaign. We tested out of homes as well as optimized the message in terms of fit and emotional balance, but also looked into tactical aspects like should it be subbed or dubbed in different countries, and how does it relate to contextual and very actual themes like Black Lives Matters. It was tested in full COVID times and aired by Coca-Cola merely 4 weeks after doing so. And what the advertising needs to do, as I already mentioned, is to create brand identification, to ensure that there's overlap between the personality of an individual consumer and that of your brand. Research that we have recently done in the Netherlands in the banking industry shows that only 1/4 or one in 4 people, 24%, strongly identifies with the main bank that they have all their products and loans and financial products with. And it's, however, important to achieve identification as a bank, because if we relate it to loyalty or the resistance to switching, we have found in this study that people who highly identify with their bank show 25% more resistance to switching than anyone else. We've dug further into this and looked into, well, what are the brand archetypes, or what is the brand archetype that a bank then needs to adopt when you want to achieve this high identification. And we have found that most banks focus on the brand archetype of being a sage and show a lot of understanding. But that's just a basic given or a basic expectation that people have about their bank. The real opportunity for banks, which no or none of the banks had achieved, is to adopt a brand archetype of being the innocent who focuses on safety and protects people financially. So this religion, the relationship religion, is all about building long-lasting love. It's about building loyalty beyond reason. It's about approaching it as a long-term investment as a brand and not just a linear loyalty program with rewards or points. And a company that has something like this in place is Uber. For its drivers, or as a driver, you can achieve different levels of gold, platinum, and diamond. And yes, you get the regular rewards, like you get discounts at gas stations, you get free dent repairs. But in the top level of the program, you get something that, at least in the US, is extremely valuable. In fact, if you reach that level, you get free university tuitions, and you can enroll in the Arizona State University. And it is something that goes beyond just driving a car. It has a major impact into these people's lives, and it's more than just earning points or earning status. We have done some research as well around this and how to do this. For example, in Sun Life, we've engaged, or for Sun Life, which is a major insurance player in the Philippines, we have engaged with over 2,000 consumers over the course of time in our Bright Minds community. We have tested things like ad design and feature evaluation, but especially looked at how we could promote people to live healthier and increase their financial literacy, to in the end increase the loyalty and engagement between Sun Life as an insurance provider and its target groups, both in the Philippines as well as in Hong Kong. And really, this is an example of how, with service and with your core product, you can build a relationship with people over time. But love is not a stable thing. As in real life, it can come with ups and downs. And there's several examples in the market out there of brands of which consumers have fallen out of love with. If you think about Abercrombie and Fitch, and if you would read the book scene, you will find an example there in terms of that, of a brand that was once very popular and appealed to youngsters, but then really felt out of the grace. A brand that has understood this in terms of following the changes in consumer thinking was Axe Lynx, Unilever's deodorant. The original positioning of the brand was around masculinity being sexually attractive. And the classic idea was that as a man, you would spray Axe or Lynx on your body and herds of women would fall in love with you. But this vision of masculinity has changed, and over the course of time, they have engaged with consumers through an online structural community to completely reposition the brand, both in terms of brand positioning statements, advertisements, packaging, and so on and so on. And so it's an example of keeping in sync with your audience such that they can keep identifying while you can still hold on to your core positioning or different place in the market. Let's move on to the influencer religion. The influencer religion is all about word of mouth. Conversations will help you cut through the clutter. It is about finding the right people that can do the job for you. It is about marketing through people, not marketing to people. And obviously, you need content with a purpose. There's a model behind this, a very good model that's explained by Jonah Berger in his book Contagious, and it's called Steps. So if you want more details on that, I will refer you to our book scene on that. But I do want to shed a little bit of light in terms of what the influencer religion is all about. Research at MIT has shown that 19% of all purchase decisions can be brought back to a conversation. 9% to an online conversation, 10% to an offline conversation. Both are different in terms of what they do. For example, online conversations are more about signaling and social signaling, while offline conversations are much more persuasive and about convincing people to buy or not to buy a product. A brand that has built its marketing and its product marketing completely on conversations is the Dutch chocolate brand Tony's Chocolonely. Tony's Chocolonely has the ultimate mission to make the chocolate business ultimately slave-free and make sure that every piece in the value chain has an equal share or can equally share in its profits. It has now, by doing so, become one of the largest chocolate brands in the Netherlands and has expanded into Denmark, Germany, Finland, Sweden, and the UK, just to name a few. And the conversation already starts with their product. If you look at the chocolate bar that you see here, it's divided into unequal pieces. So if I share it with you and you get a smaller piece than I do, you will wonder, why do I get the smaller piece? And it starts the conversation to be illustrative for the fact that in the chocolate business and in the value chain, also the profits are not equally spread. But it also goes in terms of their sampling. You will never get only one bar of Tony Chocolonely's in terms of sampling. You will always get two, one for yourself and one to share with your friends, again, to start a conversation. Also on their packaging, as you can see, people are stimulated to engage on social media and engage in the discussion, to be crazy about chocolate, but also serious about people and create 100% slave-free industry. So as I said, it's about marketing through people and not marketing to people. In fact, the goal is to create what we call a ripple effect, so that if you make a drop and you start a conversation, that the message spreads quickly in the market. A company that is doing this successfully is Samsung. Samsung is leading across the world and especially in Asia when it comes to many, many different categories in terms of electronics as well as washing machines or TVs. And obviously it has used its innovation as pure content for people to talk about it, but it also engages influencers to create scarcity and attention and cut through the clutter. Next to innovation, it has embraced the K-pop group BTS, for example, to promote one of its newest phones, which as a result sold out in just a couple of hours. Adidas has even gone one step further. It has fans, ultimate fans, that are really, really excited about sneakers. They're really sneakerheads. They're called the Creators Club. They have engaged with 10,000 of them to allow them to sell exclusive products that you can't buy anywhere else in Adidas. So next to fans, these people have become social sellers. In return for selling exclusive Adidas sneakers, they get a 6% commission, which they can keep for themselves, or they can donate the sum to Girls on the Run. So influencer strategy or influencer religion is not only about finding celebrities to engage and to support your brands. We have in the book scene extra material and explanation on how to find micro influencers and why that is important. In a nutshell, it's not rocket science, but micro influencers are shown to be almost 7 times as effective as macro influencers or celebrities. There's no real cutoff, but it seems that if you have over 1 million followers, you can't be as genuine and as authentic anymore as you want to be as to when you have 1,000 or 10,000 followers. An example that was used using these micro influencers is the Harry Potter theme park that was launched by Universal Studios. They selected 7 hand-picked bloggers and influencers that were fans of Harry Potter. They invited them for a secret webcast from Dumbledore's office. And right after the webcast, these vloggers and bloggers were allowed to spread the word. And in just 24 hours, they reached over 350 million people across the world, launching this new theme park with almost no marketing budget. And we have engaged with Twitter by means of communities and quantitative research, as well as culture and trends, by actually engaging with leading edge consumers. And we looked into 75 micro communities and took 4 to elaborate on and to make sure to provide guidance to brands as to how they can be relevant in these sub-communities such as health, music, football, or gaming. And the core message here is that next to all the research that you can do, it's sometimes very interesting to engage with those leading edge consumers, which at Insights Consulting we call our Illume guides. They will be able to allow you also to connect and understand the language and the tone of voice to speak, to be successful and create influence. We have not only done this for social media companies, we've done it for healthcare companies such as GSK, where we engaged and truly understood the dental care category. And we looked at a model that we have developed, which is called the human drivers model, which looks at people's behavior in terms of what meaning they seek, how they are in terms of relationships or positive emotions or health or security. And we engaged again with these leading edge consumers, these Illume guides, to guide us into this category and provide informed information as to how to engage with consumers and make sure that you can have influence and hence use that for spreading the word. Let's have a look at the experience religion. The experience religion is all about creating memorable events. It's about connecting and interacting with your audience and go beyond your core product. So the first belief is that you need to create memories. You need to transcend the core product and do it at scale. So it's not about just launching one brand activation once and believing that you are creating experiences for your customers. It's also about interacting, not necessarily about acting. As a human being, as a person, your consumer becomes part of the whole experience and the brand. And it's about creating memorable impressions such that you can create an afterlife before and after people are consuming your product. And the whole idea of the experience religion is based on the insight that material things or processes are easy to copy, but experiences are not. And youngsters these days, millennials, are investing much more in experiences than they are investing in material things. So it's extremely important to add a layer, an extra layer of service and experience around your core product. An example is the luxury brand or high-end basics clothing brand for women, Tux. Tux is based on the insight of empowerment through clothing. Women invest in clothing pieces when they need to feel confident. For example, when they engage in a special occasion like a job interview, a professional event, or a date, and they dress up and build and want to feel confident. When you go to a Tux shop and you buy a piece of clothing, you're not just buying the piece of clothing. You are now also automatically getting performance coach sessions with Iana Raim, who happens to be a guru in terms of helping women deal with setbacks and communicating in a self-confident way. And this is a product or a brand that is gearing towards millennials and Gen Z. And this generation cares little about the brand heritage. They invest in things that are in line with their lifestyles and provide them an experience that fits their needs. A brand for which we have done plenty of research over the course of time is KLM, Air France Airline Company. And it may now seem obvious that when you are engaged in an intercontinental flight, which comes, by the way, if you have to change terminals or planes, with quite a bit of negative emotion or friction or nervousness, it may now seem as evident that you get a mobile app to guide you through your transfer process, that your in-flight transfer video is showing you how to do this, or that you, when you walk out of the airplane, you get an agent that guides you to your next plane or your next terminal. By means of community research and ethnographical studies, we have been able to map this transfer journey and come up with a lot of service innovations over the course of time and come up with these type of ideas. But KLM even goes a step further with this campaign or this idea, which is called the takeoff tips. Imagine you're flying from Rome to Norway, or from Amsterdam to London, or any place in the world. If you don't have access to the lounge, if you don't want to go shopping, with takeoff tips, you can engage in a separate room, and you can kill dead time and connect with somebody at your destination and exchange tips. So if I'm flying from Amsterdam to Oslo, I can engage with somebody in Oslo who's making the reverse trip to Amsterdam. And we can exchange ideas on restaurants, things to do, cool bars, cool places, even why not connect with some of our friends. So based on hologram technology, a dead moment in time that goes beyond the actual flight is turned into value and in something that is memorable for consumers. And it's not only about services. A company like Henkel is doing constant journey mapping and experience tracking to ensure that shoppers can, in an offline as well as in online and offline touch points in different stages of the journey, interact with the brand and have a nice experience. We have mapped over 6,500 in-context moments to really make sure and understand what information to provide, which emotions to tap into, and which service and communication ideas to put forward. So as I mentioned, this is all about creating memorable impressions. And the reason for that is that if an experience is memorable, one creates a multiplier effect in the connected as well in the offline world. Now, what is a memorable impression or a memorable experience? Based on the literature study that we have done, we have come up to find that memorability consists of three elements: special, stimulate the senses, and stun your audience. Special refers to exclusivity. Companies like Levi's, for example, who provide tailored or options to tailor their products to a consumer's needs, have this at in their DNA and at the core of what they provide. Senses refers to the fact that if you are able to combine one or two, maybe three senses like taste, vision, visual, or other, that helps to create longer lasting memories, because senses and memories are processed in the same space in our brains as human beings. And then stun is all about surprise and delight. I'll just shed some light on the stun element and refer to our book scene when it comes to special or senses. As I just mentioned, it's all about creating surprise and delight. And a company that has been able to do this consistently over the course of time is MasterCard with its priceless surprises. In 25 countries, it has surprised over 97,000 cardholders with its specific program. And obviously there's an afterlife about it, and everybody can share their experiences in that perspective. But surprise is, if you run a marathon, surprise is very hard to keep up. And so you can plan for it, but it has a due date. It has an expiration date. And so what it's really about is that you should try as a brand to embed delight into your service offering, into your brand offering. Only 7% of all experiences exceed expectations, research has shown. But a brand experience, according to the experience religion, is all about making it work. There will be a moment in time where the feeling of delight or neutralness will go into a level of disappointment. Oberon Hotels, for example, provides their employees with the resources to turn something or a situation of disappointment into something or a situation of delight. Immediately being able to solve a problem proactively creates an emotional change that sticks in the minds of consumers and creates great experiences and stories to tell. This is based on what we call the peak end rule, meaning that people remember their experiences based on the highs or the lows and how the experience ended. A company that does this throughout and to the extreme is a company called Chewy. It's an American online store that focuses on pet food and pet accessories. Think about Amazon, but then for pets. When you engage with Chewy and buy, they will collect quite some information, personal information, especially about your pet. They will send you handwritten cards on its birthday. But also, when you engage with their customer service, the calls will not last 5 minutes. In fact, calls that last less than 5 minutes are scrutinized as to why that is. Because customer calls and engagement should last long. People like, or the principle is that people like to talk about their pets and that they're passionate about it. Chewy employees that work in their customer care centers are not recruited based on their skills to do so, but they're recruited based on the passion that they have and the love that they have for pets so that they can provide a delightful experience to the people that they interact with. We have done these type of studies as well for companies like Sky Priority. So Sky Priority is the frequent flyer program of Air France, KLM, and Delta Airlines. And their goal is to create a seamless travel experience. Based on geolocation technology, people that are Sky Priority members can engage into this community. And in 1,000 airports around the world where they go in normal times of travel, this app gets triggered and they are asked to simply evaluate by means of 2 or 3 questions to evaluate over 9 touch points, going from check-in to actually collecting your luggage. What people can also do is, next to the fact to indicate a net promoter score or a like, dislike, I feel well treated or not well treated, they can also upload a picture to explain and provide context as to why the reason or what the reason is they feel the way they feel. This information is fed in real time to each of the 20 airlines that are a member of the Sky Priority network, such that these managers can act and react upon some things that go well, but also things that don't go as planned. Let's finally have a look at the penetration religion. The penetration religion is based on the thinking of Byron Sharp, and as I mentioned, probably the most provocative and the most different of all religions that we have talked about so far. The first belief is that you should grow your customer base. So grow your base. Think about acquisition. Make sure that as many people in the market buy your product. What Byron Sharp says is that you should not focus on retention or loyalty. You should also not segment your market, very contradictory to what the classic religion poses. In fact, it says target the market, the entire market, because it is actually more homogeneous than you would think. And if you focus on light users, you will also achieve frequent users. So don't market your targets. And it's also based on the belief and the principle that you should make it easy for people to buy your product and service, and you should be mentally as well as physically available. So this is very different from the classic religion or the relationship religion. And it's a thinking that says that retention is an illusion. Research in the UK has shown that 72% of Coke buyers also buy Pepsi. And of course, this visual here, as you can see, is quite contradictory to what's in our minds. And I'll come back to the distinctive assets behind it later on. But what it says, or what the theory says, is that people have a repertoire of brands and they are at best promiscuous loyal. So people may have 10 soda brands or 5 soda brands in their minds, and they'll pick one or the other, depending on the context or the occasion. I refer to more details on that in the book scene, and I want to deep dive into building availability, more specifically into building mental availability. And mental availability refers to the fact that you need as a brand to make it easy mentally for people to buy your product. And you can do it in two ways. You should build distinctive assets or create recognizable cues, verbal, auditory, visual, taste-wise, even sensation-wise, to make sure that your brand is easily recognized and triggered in people's minds. But you should also make sure that you're available in category entry points, or in a quick way explained, occasions. Now, what is a distinctive asset? This is probably the best example of a distinctive asset ever. Golden Arch of McDonald's is so strong, they can even play with it. In Women's Day, they can just reverse it, or they can show the way. If you look at how the directions are given towards McDonald's restaurants, it's very inconsistent and even very hard to read. Well, what McDonald's had done in Canada is to crop its logo, crop its Golden Arch, and say, this is what you need to do. You just missed this, or it's the next on your left or on your right. So if a brand distinctive asset, a visual or a verbal or an audio cue is so strong that you can play with it, you've done a good job in terms of mental availability. And what is core is to look at those distinctive assets that people associate with your brand, but also uniquely associate with your brand. That is where the core is. And we can do that by measuring or by using implicit go-no-go tasks, such that people under pressure are actually associating specific brands to specific assets. Of course, if you have an asset that's highly associated with your brand, but not uniquely so, then you're basically creating confusion in the market. So you need to focus on those that are distinctively associated to your brand. We have done this for numerous brands across different markets. This is an example of coffee brands for Douwe Egberts, Jacobs, and Gevalia, where you see on the left-hand side the original packaging, or a packaging that had come up, but that had actually forgotten to stress the distinctive assets in its packs. Based on our research, we were able to provide concrete design recommendations to, for example, for Douwe Egberts, bring back the aroma lady and put it front and center and use the color for it, because it augments the recognizability among consumers when the product is on the shelf. Or for Gevalia, the little house on top to the right, on the right packaging, is something that is very distinctive and helps people recognize the brand quicker. But it's not only for CPG companies. For Bank West in Australia, a smaller player, and doing their brand tracking, we have been able to show that over the course of time, they've been able to develop a distinctive and an ownable look and feel that is able to cut through the clutter, and has over the course of time, as you can see, been able to increase branded memorability across its advertising. There's many more examples, but in lack of time, I don't have time to go into them. But finally, one more thing is category entry points. And category entry points are contexts or cues in which your brand can be triggered. It can be a consumption occasion, it can be a buying occasion, it can be any context in which your brand is relevant. The core idea about it is to always expand consumption. Parmesan cheese, for example, in Japan, was only associated with pasta. By means of a creative sampling initiatives in vending machines, they would provide lunch boxes in which there was tomato stew or Oden or mixed rice or French toast. And in the lid of the container that had these recipes was grated Parmesan cheese. So people could sample it and then, in fact, start to associate grated cheese with recipes or meals that they would never have associated it with in the first place. This is all about focusing on the 5 W's. It's core to understand why people are using your product, with what they are using your product, where, when, and with whom. If you do that, you will get a good grasp of what your category entry points are and how you are performing in them. We've done brand tracking for BBC News, for example, in which we have shown and seen that in the category entry points of being part of my everyday life, BBC was suffering from competition from Facebook. BBC was strongly associated with breaking news. And by means of this research, we've been able to provide them and to provide them recommendations to go and also play in this being part of my everyday life, for example, by focusing on trustworthiness. And so there's multiple examples in terms of focusing on your category entry points. So we have gone flew over all of these religions. As mentioned, not one religion is better than the other. They are different, but also obviously share certain principles. And these have come because of changing environments. So although we started with the classic religion, technology and social media, for example, has made the influencer religion more important. But then the thinking on system 1, system 2, and thinking fast, thinking slow, and the publications of Byron Sharp have, for example, augmented the importance or the attention towards penetration religion. So not one is better than the other, but and they obviously share values, but they do provide distinctive ways of dealing with your brand. And I would now like to invite you for another quick poll. If you go back to polev.com/insights, I would love it if you could answer the question, which of these 5 brand religions would you want to use more of? So you may select several brand religions if you want, but considering your answer of the previous poll, in which you indicated which ones you use, which ones would it be that you would want to use more of, or that you think your brand should be using more of to be successful? And I will let the responses come in. And we see already an interesting pattern evolve, is that no one or a minority of you clicks the classic religion, which is a good thing, because it means that we've all started with where we should have started, and that there is indeed a reason for these other brand religions to challenge the classic religion. So the experience religion really tops the rank here. And to be honest, it is also one of the newest religions, and a religion that many marketeers or brand owners not necessarily think of. And then we see relationship, influencer, and penetration be tied in second place. But very interesting, over 4 in 10 of you all would love to use more of the experience religion. In fact, at Insights, what we say is, if you have a blank sheet of paper, use a mix. There's good in all of these religions, and it really depends on your product life cycle, for example, on your competitive context, but also especially on your strategy and your objectives. And no 2 brands are the same. So our vision is, why would they have to be measured in the same way? And the impact for research can be in multiple ways in terms of approaching this as a program, by also making sure or thinking about the fact that every religion has its own KPIs, metrics, and tools, and it can also help you in rethinking your brand tracking. And I won't go into much detail. It's also in our book scene, but our approach is that you should start with brand strategy work and command, if you want, to make sure that you understand your brand and your consumer, which is all about doing segmentation studies, doing brand archetype studies, doing mental availability studies, or assess the performance of word of mouth and your influencers. If you then will develop a proposition in terms of product brand stretching, and you want to know if you could use your brand equity to innovate with your brand, or you would want to test and optimize brand activation and communication or packaging, you can obviously do that. And it can be aligned with your brand religion thinking or a mix thereof, and ensure that, for example, if you think about packaging and unboxing is an important element for you, then you probably want to look at making that a memorable experience for your audience. And then obviously, when you are in tracking, when it comes to brand religion-based brand tracking or advertisement tracking or touchment experience tracking, these KPIs and tools may be influenced by that. Anyway, I'm through my time, and I want to close off with saying that in brands we trust, and I will happily answer